Wizards and pretend knights. Those are two of the heroes of Wizard Academy. I'll explain it a little bit. In 1605, the book Don Quixote was released. And I can't find the tab on this thing. Oh, here we go. Written by Miguel de Cervantes. And it's the story, well, it's hard to say it's the story of any one thing in particular. It's the story of Don Quixote and his sidekick Sancho Panza. And they're going on an adventure. Don Quixote is convinced that he's a knight long after the era of knights, but that's what he's on. He's a knight on a quest. And depending on how you read that book, either he is a knight, or he's complete madman and delusional, or he's just a whimsical sort of fool in the classic sense of a fool, capital F. And it's an incredible book. I finally read it. It took me, I was here for like 7 years before I finally finished the English translation version of it, and it's incredible. It's arguably the first modern fiction novel. Definitely one of, but arguably the first. And the origin of a ton of fictional literary devices that we still use to this day. Incredible piece of art. For example, metafiction, which is when a fictional character becomes aware that they're fictional. Like when Bugs Bunny cartoons, when they start getting the animator to draw new things for them to use. Or like in Winnie the Pooh, when Tigger gets stuck in the tree and then he gets the storyteller to turn the book sideways so he can just get out of the tree. Anyway, that's metafiction. And because there's so much going on in Don Quixote, you can sort of choose who you want to view him as. He's sort of a Rorschach figure, which is you look into it and you find what is in you or what you're looking for or what you want to impose on this structure. And for us at Wizard Academy, we prefer this version of Don Quixote, which is tied to a quote when they first see the windmills and Don Quixote, and this is a terrible paraphrase, says some version of, "Come, Sancho Panza, let's go attack these dragons." Or fight these dragons. And Sancho says, "But these are windmills." And Don Quixote says, "Obviously, you know very little of adventuring." And that's sort of who we view Don Quixote as, this sort of whimsical knight on an adventure when everyone around him thinks maybe he's crazy or maybe he's a lunatic, but he knows he's doing something that matters and something that's important. And for us, that's a very strong representative of the kind of spirit of entrepreneurs. This sort of soul of, I'm going to go out in the world, I'm going to do this thing, and people are going to think I'm crazy, and people are going to think maybe I'm a little delusional, and I should just give it up and get back to the real world. But damn it, I'm going to make this thing happen. This is not just work. This is an adventure. We're fighting dragons. That's our kind of people. Another, and we've got several, but a second one is the Wizards. And what I mean by that is where Wizard Academy gets its name is the original. Some would argue the original version of wizard came from wise man, which was then wizard, which was then translated wizard. And the original wise men in historical literature is in the Bible. Now, we're not a religious institution, but that's what that painting is to my right. It's the three wise men from an artist in LA. Although, strangely, one of them looks just like Nicolas Cage, which is just proof that Nicolas Cage is everywhere. But we are sort of in love with the idea of these three men who found a star and decided that it meant something and they were going to follow it no matter what and no matter where it led them. And for us, that's another version of the same kind of soul of the people who end up at Wizard Academy, which is, what's your non-negotiable? What's the thing you're following? What's the thing you're trying to accomplish? What is the point? What is your goal? And how do you define it? And how will you know when you get there? And how do you get there? And Wizard Academy exists to help people find that North Star, that one non-negotiable defining point in their life that they're going to pursue at all costs, and then equip them to help them get there. So why does that matter that we've got heroes? Well, I'll tell you. So first, let's talk about Ardbeg. I swallowed something wrong and I forgot my water. Maybe whiskey will fix it. This is not a cheap bottle of Ardbeg, and actually I don't know that it's all that accessible anymore. but I got it ages ago because it looked interesting and I haven't had a chance to review it. So today's the day, and damn it, we're drinking Ardbeg. This is one of their anthology release, which their anthology releases are evidently meant to sort of reference famous tales and like legends of Islay and Scotland. And this one is the Harpy's Tale. And the story goes that some dude who worked at the distillery evidently went down after consuming an entire bottle of Ardbeg, was convinced that he saw a harpy. Now, I don't know if you remember what a harpy is, but it's not a comforting creature. Like, you could argue that, you know, a Pegasus is a beautiful creature, or you could maybe even find beauty in like a minotaur, but a harpy, or maybe even like a mermaid. Harpy, if you go look at pictures, freaky as crap. Just, it's got the upper body of a woman, with arms and the head of a woman, wings instead of hands, although most pictures have her with hands and wings on the back of them, and then from the waist down, an eagle. So a harpy is a half eagle, half woman. It's very weird. So what this whiskey is Ardbeg matured in sweet Sauterne casks, which is a sweet wine, white wine, dessert wine, and blended with the classic bourbon cask Ardbeg. And I like the idea of this because I much prefer the idea of blending components to the idea of just like finishing something and then that's what you get. Immediately in the nose, it is way more sweet and less smoky than most Ardbegs I've picked up recently. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're not used to smoke, this is a smoky whiskey. So, almost like fire-charred pineapple a little bit in the nose. And sweet grapes. I feel like this is high proof because it keeps making me cough. It's not. It's 46%. Something's just lingering. There is this sort of like background dark roasty note, but it's not to the point where it's gotten ashy or truly campfirey. It's more just sort of, for lack of a better term, a little bit rubber and phenolic. Oh. Okay. So that's weird. It goes back to classic Ardbeg in the palate. It's not as sweet in the palate as it is on the nose. It starts with the sweetness, and then it goes full, like, seaweed, vegetal, asparagus-y, earthy Ardbeg, but with a lingering sugar content to it, like glazed vegetables or something. It's very kind of thin vanilla vegetal, and which is wild for a 13-year-old. Maybe the proofing it down kind of softened everything, but it does just sort of start sweet, end vegetal. And vegetal just means, you know, like I'm thinking like green vegetables or like not root necessarily, but maybe root vegetable, earthy vegetable direction. Woo! I'm shooting a little bit early today, and this is like a little bit of a good morning to you. I don't know, man. It's $150 a bottle. Or at least it was in Austin when I bought it. And I'm not getting that much more pleasure out of this than an Ardbeg 10. And an Ardbeg 10 is a lot less. Is it good? Yeah, because Ardbeg makes good whiskey. But be happy with the Ardbeg 10 if you didn't get your hands on this. I still really love the nose, and I'm a little disappointed by the palate if I had to pick between the two. So, there is a quote from an author, Jack McDevitt, who wrote a book called The Engines of God. And it says, "Show me what a people admire, and I can tell you everything about them that matters." We believe that very strongly here at Wizard Academy, which is your heroes, the things that you admire, the things you put on paintings, and the things that you put on sculptures, and the things that you keep books about and have art, and they should be a clue into who you are and what you give a about. That's why it's very important to be careful about what you highlight and what you promote and what you brag about or what you talk about or what you think is a part of your space. Be careful what you admire because those things are what you become. And also pay attention very, very closely to what other people admire because you will learn things about them that they won't tell you. The things you admire and surround yourself with, they give you away for better or worse. And that's why I'm glad to be surrounded by all of you here. And that's why I'm really glad you're here. Cheers.